I am from Copper Candle. We are a creative technology company. We make virtual theatre and live experiences. Also the head of the Centre for Digital Production at Rosebery College, and I think the first time I came here, I was just starting my PhD. Very embarrassingly, 5 years on, I am still a PhD student, and I'm not looking at my supervisor who's sitting in the audience at the moment. But I'm going to be talking about a project that Copper Candle was commissioned to create by EVA UK and the Audience of the Future programme. And it was specifically there to ask the question, what do audiences want? And we proposed that we wanted to ask the question, what do audiences want from live theatre in the metaverse? So here's our creds. I just thought it was worth putting up because you know, we are a metaverse company now. So ignore the creds at the top. It's the creds at the bottom that are important. I am a high elf. My role is a wizard supreme. My tag in gaming is Jim Bob. So you may refer to me that if you're in a metaverse context. But my other colleague writing this paper with me is Rory Foster, who is another PhD student at Rosebery College, and he also works with me at Copper Candle. So I just think that's important to mention that we are a company working in the industry. We're all academics, and that's a really interesting focus for the research we were doing, that we were putting academic research rigor and methodology into an industrial research project. We lent really heavily on the work of Auslander and his work thinking about liveness and liveness in all sorts of media. And there's actually a quote that I'm going to pick out, which wasn't Auslander's, he didn't say it, it was in his book by Peter Marks, which was written in the New York Times. Audience reaction at live performances are so programmed as to seem canned, and theatre audiences emulating those in television studios appear to applaud on cue. This is really important to us. We were asking the question, when audiences watch theatre, are they responding as you'd expect them to, because it's programmed into us, like we all applaud at the end of each of our talks, or are we actually showing appreciation? Is it actually a real life reaction to this? So this was in the back of our minds. But I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey just to give some context to all of this. First of all, can all the Fortnite players put their hands up? Thank you. Okay, great. I mean, has anyone here visited Fortnite yet? Yeah, and I say visited rather than played because Fortnite now has 120 million active users at any point in time. That's more than the population of the UK. So people come to the UK to watch our theatre. Why do we not go to visit Fortnite to go and watch their theatre and live events? This is Marshmallow. He was the first one to do it. He had an audience of 20 million people watching do a 10-minute set. The Guinness World Record is Rod Stewart doing 1 million people at Rio Beach, 1999, New Year's Eve. 20 times that in one set. So just a little bit of it. I'm going to talk over it as well, so keep the volume down a bit. All right, it's all skewed to the side. I mean, you get the idea. He's meant to be performing live. He actually wasn't. I know that they had an accident and they had to use pre-recorded data to perform Marshmallow, which is interesting. That's part of the context of the research. There's 64 people in every session watching this. There's about 150,000 sessions running at the same time. So it was live, but only 64 people in the experience at once. It has live video, live lighting, it has 30-meter high holograms. You can't have that at a real concert. So this is a concert experience that trumps any major live event that's existed before. Just to put a complete different context on that, this is The Dream, produced by the RSC. I was fortunate to be part of the team working on this. Now, The Dream was a piece of Midsummer Night's Dream, Shakespeare's famous play. It's beautiful imagery in the text. So this piece was only 20 minutes long, focused on the imagery and the design. Took out words of like things like the food that they eat and the colours and the scene. That was what was used to design this experience. So very little story in it, mostly about the experience. Had a live motion capture performer, so that's somebody in a suit wearing all the little dots, being captured by cameras and performing into a game engine. And this game engine was then being streamed back to us on a web platform. Now, the interesting bit was this little firefly here. At home, we were allowed to flick little fireflies into the scene at one point. So we had some sort of interaction with the actress, and they were walking around the stage or the performance space with these little fireflies falling down around them. And at one point, my son turned to me and said, "Is that my one there that I just flicked?" So I have no idea. There's so many of them landing. Who knows? If it was me making this, knowing how hard it would be to make this tool interact with this, I would have faked it. You know, I would have had loads of randomly falling fireflies, and you can keep flicking them. And when I asked, apparently it nearly did happen that way because they could get it to work. And this again prompted our research. Like, why does that have to be live? The audience would have had the same experience if you just randomly flicked fireflies. So our copper candle, just again the context, this is, I'm not selling, this is a product that we're making. We've made a product for Unreal Engine that allows us to live stream lighting desk data from a theatrical lighting console into Unreal. So we can control thousands and thousands of parameters of data in Unreal in the same way you control the lighting at a live concert. And we now have to find a way to stream data to get this to VR headsets, to mobiles. So we've created our own streaming protocols that can stream this data from a theatre studio to a remote location. What that means is that we can take an existing theatrical design team. They can work the same way they've always done before with lighting consoles, with motion capture equipment. Not that every theatre has motion capture equipment. Shakespeare might be the exception. But all the audio tools, automation servers, it can all be streamed straight from the theatre to not the stage, but a game somewhere else in the world, and at that, thousands at the same time. So everything you're seeing here, it's made up of just two boxes, like a box, a cube, and a sphere or something, and 5 different materials. And we're operating all of that live with my colleague, who's a brilliant lighting programmer, sitting at a lighting desk, busking, we call it. It's like playing a musical instrument, doing that live. So none of that's pre-recorded or animated, it's live. Live again, see the word comes up quite a lot. And this is it, this is him, my colleague Andy, sitting at a lighting desk. You'll see these in theatres all over the world. This is Unreal Engine and motion capture performance, and this is Rosebery College Centre for Digital Production. So this is part of an Innovate UK project we did last year, which I actually reported on at EVA last year, so some of you may have seen this. But there was a significant thing that came out of this project. We were live streaming onto this screen in Unreal. And we said, to do this performance, we can't have the audience in the studio. Apart from anything else, COVID is breaking out again. So we didn't want to mix people. So we said, let's put them in a room next door in cubicles and give them a screen each. And then as the actors started to get COVID and were going down, one of my colleagues said, let's just record it now. So we've got it. We've got a screen recording. And then we'll just play it on their screens and tell them that we're doing it live. And we went, what's this? We just spent hundreds of thousands of pounds developing the streaming technology. What was the point of all of that if we're just going to show it pre-recorded? There was well, actually quite a lot of points. It means we can have a nice quality version of it. It'll be cheaper. We can get rid of all the mistakes. The audience, we have thousands of them watch it rather than just 10, 20 of them. So there's suddenly loads of benefits from not having it live. So we started asking this question, like, we've just spent this money making these products. Do we actually need it? So when this call came out from Innovate UK for the Audience of the Future programme about what audiences want, we had the question, we want to know, do we need to do this? Is live better than pre-recorded? That's fundamentally what we're trying to find out. Now, I'm just going to segue slightly to talk about an inconvenient truth in theatre. Should it come dancing fans here? Got to be more hands than Fortnite, sure. Good, okay, I'm pleased. Musical theatre fans, everyone been to see the theatre? Okay, we've got people. So when you go to see a piece of theatre or any major commercial event that has lots of video and lighting and music, there's one of these sitting in the lighting box. This is a time code generator. What this does is that at the beginning of the play, the person sitting here, which is the lighting operator next to the lighting desk, hits play, and that starts sending beats. That beat goes to every piece of equipment that controls every single thing you're watching on stage, including a little earpiece in the conductor's ear, which is telling him or her when to beat the baton. If I hit pause on that during the middle of the show, the conductor would literally pause, not knowing what to do, and the entire show would stop. And when I hit play, it would just carry on again. At that point, now that I've got a tape recorder controlling my live theatre experience with real people on it, is it a live experience? Now, when I ask performers about this question of liveness, I say, do you need to be live? Does it matter that you're live on stage? Of course it is. It's really important. Why? Because there's nothing quite like standing on stage and feeling the energy of the audience. That's a performance response. I said, well, that's about you, not about the audience. And I call this the performer-centric bias. It turns out that all the people, and I'm generalizing here, and I'm still collecting evidence to prove this bit, most of the people that will respond to why, particularly in my case, liveness is important, all the people that have an opinion on it, they're either actors, ex-actors, or failed actors. And that makes up your artistic directors, all the producers, the reviewers, the people that hand out awards for the Olivia Awards and the BAFTAs. They all come from that community. and the community of people who think of themselves as performers first. Now, that's not a bad thing. I'm not criticising. I'm pointing out there's a bias. So when we ask the question, is liveness important? Everyone that keeps saying yes, they're performers. So we've got to try and take this apart a little bit. So coming back to our project, we were trying to figure out how to prove this by removing the bias. And there's Auslander. It's as close as you're going to get to a reference or citation from in this talk, I'm afraid. So we had two actresses who were fully aware of all the little tricks we're going to play on the audience, performing in motion capture. We had a full theatrical setup. That's me, looking a bit more theatrical, wearing my comms. That was talking to the stage manager. I had my lighting desk, my audio mixing desk for streaming all the audio, a bottle of Coke and a coffee cup. That's very traditional in the theatre set. On here is one of our motion capture systems. One of the tricks we were using is that we had a live motion capture system in the studio next door, and we had a pre-recorded motion capture system running in this room, and we were able to flip between them. So during the show, as it was running, I would just sneakily flip over to pre-recorded data, and we only found out, or the audience only found out we did that in the survey at the end, when we revealed it to them to get their impression of what happened. So the screen on the left there, the pink screen, is the output that came to the audience, and I'll show you a bit of that in a sec. First of all, with the respondents we had 100 people take part in the experience. Most of them did the survey. We had a perfect, I've never seen a demographic split of male, female, and prefer to say as good as that. I mean, you couldn't get it better. But the age split was pretty accurate, pretty fair. We had a nice mix of theatre goers and gamers, which is really important because what we're making is a crossover between online gaming and digital streaming theatre. And going back into the actual experience, this is a moment where we're trying to test some voting. So the reason this demographic is important is that we're trying to understand how people respond to gamification in theatre, particularly online theatre. So we had all of these buttons up here that could be used by the audience. The idea is you click on like the sad face and you see a big picture pop up going, sad face, and you send that emoji into the metaverse. What's actually happening is you click on that button and it just creates a picture. That's all it does. It's not talking to the audience, it's not talking to the actors. It's just something for your own gratification, but the audience doesn't know that. They think it's actually contributing to the show in some way. So down here, I had this chat box that told us how people are voting or how people are reacting. So I could see, that's just for the research, a log of when people hit buttons. And you can see the audience smashing that applause button because they're enjoying themselves. And they have no idea that it has absolutely no impact. Nobody's observing this. So the gratification for being part of the experience is all that mattered. We did also have a nice chat so people could talk to each other in the audience, and in the results, this was a really successful component. And we also had a voting system. So we had bananas, apples, and pears, and we asked the audience to vote on narrative choices or design choices. So you'll see here a moment where this is the live stream data. So our motion capture performer, Marissa, is performing as a robot. She's asking everyone to vote on the colour of the scenery.
Red, oak, apple. Changing the walls to purple, oak, pear.
Now the audience is all making their choices now. I'm seeing it come in on the log. In truth, we'd already decided what we're going to do. We programmed it into the lighting desk. So the audience think they have agency, and actually we've removed it. And we didn't tell them that. They only found out in the survey at the end. So we were asking them questions in the survey. Was the ability to vote on the outcome of the narrative something you found important or not? Yes, look, everyone loved the fact they could vote. They had no idea at this point that they couldn't. We allowed them the ability to change the point of view, so they could either watch the view that we controlled, so we had like a cinematic director's camera that we positioned at the right point in time, but they could also click in and make it a gamified point of view. So we found that the people that identified themselves as gamers preferred that, and the people who preferred theatre preferred the controllable camera. Did this event feel more like theatre or a game? Generally, people felt like it was more of a game. That's not surprising. It's running on a computer. You're not sitting in an auditorium. So this is a really important part of our conclusion, which I'll come to at the end. Now then, we revealed to them what we'd actually done, all the little tricks we were playing. And do you believe the vote had any effect on the outcome? Actually, people started to feel like, yes, it did. When we started asking people, were they upset when they found out that their vote meant nothing? Do you know what the answer was? Didn't care. They literally just thought the most interesting thing for them was being able to share an idea, like share with other people. They felt at the moment like they were sharing their opinion with other people in the audience. Equally, did it make you feel like you had, would you like to see more or less voting? Yes, they would like to see more voting. And this is after we revealed to them that it didn't do anything. They actually would have preferred that the other audience members knew the outcomes of the vote, but it still had no impact at all on the show. So we started to go, oh, well, we could just basically create a linear production here where it's always the same and the audience won't care. The only person that seemed to care that we were cheating was my wife, and that's because she's the only person that watched it twice. And when she saw the second one, she realised we're creating the same responses despite what she was voting. She was furious with me. I got an earful that night. But that was also indicative of the type of response a real audience might have. Yeah. So does it make you feel more connected to the rest of the audience? Yes, everyone liked feeling like they're connected to the audience. And this sort of came to, what was an important conclusion to the project is that, think about the question, is it important for audiences to feel like they've got a live experience in the metaverse? Yes, it is, actually, despite what I've just said. The liveness isn't the connection between the audience and the performer, it's between the audience and the audience. It's about having a shared sense of togetherness. So a scheduled performance happening at a certain place and time, like a cinema production, is more important than having an experience where you feel like you have interaction with the audience, or with the actor. However, from the actor's point of view, their feedback was, it helps us perform better when we could see the responses from the audience. We revealed to them after what the audience was saying, how they like to respond. Certainly the stuff in the chats they were seeing, and they could see some of the feedback coming in, and some of the audience members were quite chatty and quite sarky, which is quite fun when you're doing a bit of improv theatre. So there is a benefit to having it live. In addition to that, you can also iterate your production a lot more quickly. So you can have many more sort of control design changes. And you think about how performers like to adapt their performance as they rehearse it more and more and more. You can do that with this system. Whereas if you pre-recorded it and dumped it into a game engine, you have to publish it 2 weeks before your launch event. That's it, you're finished. Whereas this one, the performers were changing their experience every single performance in response to how they felt it was working for them.
2 minutes.
Thank you. I've pretty much finished actually. Some of the core responses are quite cool. Sort of just reiterating what I just said, that there was a sort of an opinion that people didn't care if they didn't get it live. They just wanted to have the highest quality experience. That was always that would always trump liveness. So what we're doing now, we're turning this into a proper piece of metaverse theatre called Copper House. So as a company, we're moving forwards with a new commercial platform that we call Copper House. It's going to be the world's first live virtual metaverse platform, I'm trying to get as many keywords in there for investors, which runs with existing technology. So the idea is existing performers come in and work with us. It makes it more accessible. We can reach more people. Think about Travis Scott performed to 27 million people in Fortnite. Those people that came to see it are not the traditional audiences of live concerts and theatres. The opportunities here are that we can reach more people in less privileged places, bring Shakespeare, opera, ballet to more people who wouldn't normally get to see it. We're thinking a lot more carefully about user interactions. We realised that there was a lot of accessibility issues just in downloading the application, let alone your interaction with it. And the key, I said that was a key takeaway we had when we were talking about whether it's made games or theatre makers. It's designed for the medium. That is really important because we were trying to make a piece of theatre that lives in the game. And it's not either of those things. We're creating a new medium here. This is where cinema was 120 years ago, and we're really excited to be part of it, but we can't just plagiarise the old, remediate theatre into this new platform. We need to think about it in new ways. So we're still finding that out, and this project's just one of many, and everyone just keeps making things and failing until we find out what the correct way of making for this medium is. Thank you.
We don't have time for questions. We're going to have to roll on, but please talk to James at the end of the session.